Ready? This is Shippy the Explorer. Welcome to one of the first series of genealogy, finding your roots, or better yet, we are going to use the word your foundation. And the whole idea is who you are sitting as an individual on a series of ancestors who went before you. And so today we have my wife Shirley Morrison as our special guest today. Sorry about the chart. It's a little bit small, but we have Shirley Morrison as one of our first guests on this program. Welcome to Shippy the Explorer and this aspect of our program. We are going to explore her roots to see who are her ancestors that she's sitting, who made her up. And so we will we'll talk about that today. Welcome. If you like this series, I'm sure I encourage you to like and share, especially share, because some of the names are very important. They are real names. Most of these things, all of these things have been researched. Now, Shirley Morrison immigrated. I was born in Jamaica. And you can see we're going to show the map of Jamaica. And now, who is Shirley Morrison in her sense? We're going to do the paternal side, her paternal side, and her maternal side. Now here we go. All right. So who do you think you are?
That's a good question.
Who made you up?
Okay.
Do you?
I know my mom's name is Evelyn, previously Makulski. When she got married to my daddy, she was Eklin SAMMS. Heflin, ETH. And my father is Hoen SAMMS. Okay, and the maternal side, I know my grandmother, Elizabeth Makulski, very well because she actually raised me since I was 2 years old when my mom migrated to England. For the and that's my maternal side. I know my grandfather, should I?
Yeah, tell me who you know in the family.
Grandfather is Harold Makulski. I didn't know of like great grandmother and great grandfather. So that's where I stopped.
Right.
I didn't know of great grandmother or great grandfather.
So really, you're not sure after about 2 generations. I mean, ancestors, your father and your grandfather. You're not sure how the lineage goes, but you're not aware of what took place in the history of your family in certain things. There's a lot of things that will be revealed today in her family, and some of it might be surprising. So we'll talk about the maternal. We're probably not going to do all the lineage line, but we'll just follow a series structured way. All right. As far as you know, she was born in Jamaica to um, um,
Ethelyn
SAMMS or Ethelyn Mikulski. And when we finish this, because the writing is so, I thought I could get this bigger. We'll show this better. So here we are. Shirley Morrison, born 1957. Here is in the trunk of a tree. The trunk, this represents the trunk of a tree. And in the trunk, she has her siblings, Noel and Bev. Those are the thing. Those
brother and sister.
Then Shirley Morrison got married, and she's now at this beginning creating the branches of her tree. She has 4 children, and those are forming the branches of the tree. And she is in the trunk. Now, who does she sits on as her ancestors? Her kids are, for instance, Karine, born 1977, Kirk George 1984, Kyle 1992, and Kellyanne 1996. And they may not be aware of who came before them. So here we are. Let's do the maternal side of the family. Her mother was Ethelyn Mikulski. Her mother is Ethelyn Mikulski because you see there's no ending date. She's still alive.
Still alive.
Still alive and kicking in England. Sheffield folks. Ethelyn Mikulski, born 1933. Right? Then Ethelyn Mikulski's father was Harold Mikulski, born 1902. But let's go back to Ethelyn. Ethelyn was born in Jamaica and left Jamaica as a Windrush person in 1959 and ended up in London, and down she ended up in Sheffield, England, and where she worked for years, and one of the most skilled chefs in the region, has developed her own a very lovely skill of being one of the chef in that region. Now, Harold Mikulski was a very common sense man, born in St. Andrew, Jamaica, and 1902, but by the time he was in his 20s or 30s, he was traveling to America already and farm work, and eventually went to England. The time he went to England, it would have been also part of the Windrush generation. And if you ask about the Windrush generation, is a set of people who came on a Windrush ship, and they have named from 1950 something until 1970 something or 1960 something. That's a Windrush generation, and you can look that up in the internet. All right, so
Can I ask?
yes. So question.
Harold, my grandfather.
Yeah.
What year did he die?
Oh, it's a good question. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably need to put the Hannah.
Yes. It's in the records, but I didn't put it on here.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was 80 something or 90 something. But we'll put that here.
Mm-hmm.
So Harold was a traveler, and there is a story about Harold when he came to England. The people who came up in the Windrush generation in England, in Bradford, in the clothing industry, Harold did a wonderful thing. And the story is that Harold, the local English people did not want to have the Windrush people sleeping in their house. They couldn't get amenities for sleep and living. Harold made enough money to buy a whole house in Bradford. and he separated the house into rooms, and turned out he became a landlord in the early part of that movement. He was making money.
Mike? You don't need a mic? No.
But he was making money, out of that thing. And he turned around and support his family and all that. Some of his kids came up to England around the same time. Now, who was Harold McCuskey's dad? We understand from the records we found, it's Anna McCuskey, born circa, S-I-C-I-R, when you see that, is circa means around and about. We're not sure when he was born, but we might be able to get the actual thing. And it's 1883. Anna, I think he was called Put, because he was short and very rambunctious and proud. Now this Hannah told the story, and a lot of people didn't believe that his grandfather came from Scotland. And a lot of people didn't really believe him, I would suspect. It turned out that he was right. Because when Hannah got married, on the marriage records of the Jamaican marriage records, you have to, in the old days, you do tell who is your father. So the spouse tells, the wife to be tells who is her father, and the husband to be tells who is father. So Hannah on his marriage record to a lady called Hart said his father was Charles McCuskey, and that's how we moved down the line. Now, Charles McCuskey was born circa 1830 to maybe 1831. We're not sure. When I look at the records, that's what I'm picking up. But you'll ask me, as Shirley the Explorer, where am I getting these records? And what the records for Jamaica comes from is that the government or the crown back then God gave a law, an order that we should start to record birth, death, marriages, baptism, and so forth. And so we have a lot of records in the archives in Jamaica, especially in Spanish Town, Jamaica. Now, out of that records, Shirley the Explorer, who is also a genealogist, looked up Charles, who was Charles' father, and I found out that Malcolm McCuskey, born circa 1786 to 1787. Now, on his record, we found out that Malcolm McCuskey was truly a white pioneer who came to Jamaica and started
From Southend.
From Southend, Scotland. And Southend, Scotland, I'll show you, this is a picture of South Scottish thing, and Southend is right here. Southend, Scotland. And we have actually gone there and looked at the place and asked around, but the records in Scotland shows that he was actually born in Southend. Malcolm McCuskey, white male, born in Southend. The show map, read. Now, when Malcolm McCuskey came to Jamaica, slavery was almost over. They may were asked when he came to Jamaica, but he came to Jamaica in the 1830s, 1820s, 1830s. But here we are, we're going to read a little bit of what we know. And I'm going to credit, is a quote from a report from Shirley McCoskey, who did an extensive work on the family. And here's her report. Shirley wrote, Malcolm McCoskey was born to Alexander McCoskey. If you look at it, it's MC.
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Just grab a Kleenex.
All right, so while she's coming back, I'll read so she can hear me. Malcolm McCoskey was born to Alexander McCoskey, McCualske. And that's another point I'm going to point out to you guys. Malcolm is the second born child of 4 children, sisters Mary and Barbara and brother Donald. Malcolm was the only one of his siblings to leave Scotland and to reside in Jamaica. As a young man, Malcolm experienced poverty, with his life being extremely hard in the 1700s, Scotland. Job prospects were few and money was scarce for many families. I expect that Malcolm heard of, maybe even knew someone who had left Scotland for Jamaica and became wealthy from owning plantations and living in a delightful life. One may ask, why delightful? Imagine this warm climate, big house, fresh food, abundance of liquor, constant flow of workers, monetary gains, sexual endeavors, and the knowledge that one has the power over another. Now, coming from Scotland in that time, would not Jamaica be delightful to you too? Be honest now. I would like to think that Malcolm was a decent slave master, a man that didn't beat his slaves, was reasonable and fair. Looking through the slave register of 1817, 1834, Malcolm had a reasonable sized estate, no more than 40 slaves, and grew mainly tobacco, coffee, and banana. He had a few livestock, and grown provisions were grown for his own family and his slaves. By the ending of slavery, Malcolm had accumulated 109 acres of land in the parish of St. Andrew. He also had a residential home in Kingston on Rose Lane. For those of you who know Jamaica, check out Rose Lane. There are 3 women that present themselves in Malcolm's life. Eleanor Edwards married Malcolm on the 18th of September, 1840. The only other information that I found on her is that she is the mother of twin boys, Malcolm and Neil. I do not have birth or death date of Eleanor. Now, Malcolm also went out and had relationships with his slaves. And one of the slaves he had kids with was Tibby, an African, a.k. Rebecca. Oftentimes, slave masters' surnames were given to newborn babies that were born to the slaves. This is a case with all of Tibby's children. Nothing strange in that. One may think, however, what we must remember, slave masters saw the female slaves as nothing more than property. So, all right. So that's the and now from the birth records from Southend, we came up with a document that Malcolm's father is Alexandra Mikulski. Look at the difference in the spelling. MC up here is Caulsky, and down here is Cualskey. So we find that a lot of times the names change from the original names in England. They evolved to something else. Any question?
No, it just sounds interesting.
Okay. All right. So now there's two people that make you up, unless you're a test tube baby. If you're a test tube baby, then we may not know where the sperm came from or where the egg came from. But sometimes they make documentation on that. And I'm a Shipping Explorer as Laurel G. Morrison. I'm using old records from Jamaica. And I specialize in Jamaica, folks. And I go a little bit in the European records with Ancestry.com. But what I'm using here in Jamaica is FamilySearch.org. And this was a site developed by the Mormon Church of the United States. What they have done is gone into the records and archives, for instance, country of Barbados and Jamaica and different islands, and they have made copies of the various records. And if you create an account, you can search your records. So most of these records are actually records in the books. Tons of records in Jamaica. So any question before we go on? So you realize now you're sitting on people from Europe. And in between, they came and had slaves, and then they had a relationship with the slaves. And so we have a mixture of Jamaica, out of many one people. Some of us look black, some of us look white, some of us look mulatto, and so forth. So let's go over to the paternal side of Shirley Morrison's tree, or roots. Her mother met a young man called Howard Leslie SAMMS. Maybe back in the 50s, we're not sure. But Howard was born on February the 4th, 1933. All right? So who was Howard's father? We found out that Howard's father, let's show you Howard. Here we go. That's the man. And if we want to see him on his music in England, that's the man. Here we go. You have seen this before. So, Howard's father, Howard, who was Howard? We thought Howard was, because he was born in either Portland, Port Antonio, or Anatobe, but I think he was born in Port Antonio because we found out that his father, Conrad SAMMS, was a railway conductor, and he was being shipped around the country. So it seemed like he moved from where he was originally from Clarendon to Portland, and by the time we pick up Howard, he was in Anatobe. So Howard most likely wasn't born in Anatobe. We have to look at the records, but I think I saw a record where Howard was probably born in Port Antonio. Anyway, Howard's father is Conrad SAMMS, SAMMS, and he was born 1904, and he died April 11th, 1954. And it's possible that Conrad was either born in Lacovia, St. Elizabeth, or Santa Cruz, around that area, for those of you who know Jamaica. Now he was a railway,
That's when he died?
yeah, 1954.
I was born 1957.
Yes, so talk loud.
No, but he died when Daddy was young.
Yeah. So if your daddy is 33,
1933.
33 from 54 is 21. Yeah, 21. Was very young. As far as on the death record. Yeah. All right. So you can talk loud so they can hear you. Now, Shirley's questioning when he died, but we have records that can show. And this is a document from the Gleaner. The Jamaica Gleaner is one of the oldest papers in Jamaica. You can read it. You want to read it? You read the. I'll give you one that you can read.
Here?
Let me give you a good one to read. Yes. Date is from Jamaica Gleaner, April. Read this one. April 11th, 1954. Read the inside.
Okay.
Talk loud so you can hear.
Man dies, a strain severs hands, feet. And this was Maypen, Clarendon, April 11th, from our correspondent. Conrad SAMMS, a brakesman employed to the Jamaica government railway, had his hands and feet severed as the result of a fall from a cane train between Sutton's and Seven's last night. He died in the Lionel Town Hospital today. He was discovered at about 4 o'clock this morning by the superintendent traveling by trolley and taken to hospital in an ambulance from Greenwich State.
Yeah. So you see, if you're doing your DNA or your family roots, a lot of information is out there. You can go into the archives, you can go into the Institute of Jamaica, you can go into the Gleaner, which started, I think, 1834 or 1838, I think around there. And they have now digitized that information. So the report, we question how he died. If his 2 hands and 2 feet were severed, it's kind of a weird that they were severed like that. Seemed like I talked about it with the family already, and it looked like there's something suspicious around his death. It's weird.
It's a terrible death.
But he worked with the Jamaica Railway Corporation, and yeah. So you have heard of who is Conrad? A man who goes around the country in Jamaica working on the railway until it took his life. Let's say that's what happened. Now, who is Conrad's father? This is a very interesting character. It was Oscar Augustus SAMMS, born 1855 and died 1935. Profession: he purported to be an apiarist, A-P-I-A-R-I-S, apiarist. An apiarist is a beekeeper. And he was proud of it because even when he died, his death certificate shows that he was an apiarist. Now, he was born in most likely Lacovia or Santa Cruz also in St. Elizabeth. Oscar married twice officially. And when he married the second time, he was 60 something, and that allowed us to pick up who was his father. Because remember, on your marriage records, you have to tell who is your father. And
so he was my great grandfather.
So this is how old is your father, grandfather, great grandfather. Now, there are a lot of Psalms all over the world. But when you hear they tell this story, that man is a man back in those days, married twice, had a lot of girlfriends or baby mamas, but his wife had, well, the records showing he had almost 19 or so kids.
With his wife?
Well, yeah. How to believe that? I still can't believe it, although I'm looking at the records. But Oscar was a baby machine. This man had reported over 30 kids. Over 30 kids. Maybe the honey was giving him a lot of energy. 30 kids. 2 official wives we know. Now, we found out that Oscar's first wife that had maybe about, I think it was 18 kids or 19 kids on the record. One of his sons was Conrad. So Conrad is from the first marriage. Then he married Emily Channer, and then he had a number of other kids. When he died, well, let's go back to Oscar. Oscar seems like on his birth or baptism records, it's Fuller's Wood, St. Elizabeth. That's on the records. When he died, the death record said he died in the Blue Mountain region of St. Thomas, in St. Thomas area.
Yeah, Blue Mountain.
Yeah, the Blue Mountain region in Jamaica runs from St. Thomas into Portland. It runs right up the ridge, and it almost goes into St. Andrew. Part of the lower parts of the Blue Mountains are in St. Andrew. So it runs on the higher parts of the bone of Jamaica. St. Thomas, Portland, St. Andrew. When it reached St. Mary, it kind of fizzled out. So who is Oscar? Now we're getting, this is Oscar and Emily Channer. Does he look white? This is the second one. Old man married to a young girl.
You look kind of mixed though.
Yeah, they're mixed, but he's not pure white. But
okay,
you can see there's some kind of a European look. But it turns out we're still researching, and Shirley's brother went ahead and did his DNA. And his DNA, not pointing to, on the Psalm side, not pointing to England per se, but it's pointing to the Middle East, Syria and Lebanon and all that region. So it's possible that the family of the Psalms, the first bloodline, migrated from the Middle East way back then and went into England in the 15th century. And I will touch on that 15th century. And then maybe settled down. And from England, they came out as English folks. But I show what happened. How I prove that is about the DNA these days is pointing to the Middle East, Syria. So it's possible that the family is Assyrian. Anyway, you have seen Oscar and see how proud he is. Proud old man. You can see where the kids, a lot of people would fall in love with him. Anyway. All right, so let's go into, on Oscar's marriage records, he told us who his father was. And he says, my father is Henry Philip SAMMS. And he was born about 1830, circa 1830s. And I got the name from the marriage record between Oscar and Emily. Now this is where Shipper the Explorer's research come to a sudden stop. And I struggled and I still can't find the father for Henry Phillips to prove who he was, to prove who his father was. But we know the bloodline is, the connection is there. And then I did some more research and picked up the whole records of the family. And here we go. I picked up the records starting about 1750 with a man called Isaac Gale SAMMS. Sam was married to a Gale, and the Gale had this child, Isaac. And I suspect from records in Jamaica, family sudden, and from this Isaac, the family seemed to have had plantations in St. Andrew. And we're going to get into that. When you immigrate as a pioneer into Jamaica back then, you can be given land, and it's called land grant. So it seems like they suddenly got more land from not in St. Andrew, but St. Elizabeth. So suddenly I found the records not in St. Andrew anymore, but more in St. Elizabeth. They suddenly moved for some reason. And Isaac acquired land in St. Elizabeth. And that's around Santa Cruz, Lacovia, around that area. Who was Isaac Gale SAMMS' father? Was John SAMMS. At this point, I cross off one of the M's, and it's SAMS. And John SAMMS was baptized November the 18th, 1725. All right? Let's move on down. John SAMMS' father, on his birth records, show that his father was Thomas SAMMS. They go back to the two M's. And Thomas SAMMS was born January 7th, 1699. And he died. But also I see another record that says Thomas was born December 10th, 1697. So which one is right? It's hard to figure out. But he died about 1737. All right? Remember, they didn't move to St. Elizabeth yet. Now we're going to John. Thomas SAMMS' father was John SAMMS, born circa 1661, and he died March 18, 1707. So from Isaac, well, let's before I do that, from Isaac down to William is actually records. I'm getting the information from records. All right, but we're getting into the interesting part. And then we close up. John SAMMS' father was the famous William SAMMS. And there again they took off an M and they say SAMS. Circa 1640s and died 1679. And how do I know he died 1769? Because it's because of his will. But before we get into the will, we're going to talk about land grant. It seemed like these Caucasian folks come to Jamaica, and I'm so pleased that I found this record, because on his land grant, it says they are granting Captain William SAMMS the year 1697, and he's been granted 430 acres of land. Right? That's remarkable. But captain means he's in the military.
1697.
He died 1679. He's a military person, but when he came to Jamaica and got the land in 1679, let's work it out, folks. 1679 from, and take away 1655. Why 1655? Because 1655 was when the British came in and captured Jamaica. So 1655 from 1679, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is 4. 5 from 7 is 24. So just 24 years after Jamaica was captured by the British, they captured it from the Spaniards. A guy called Captain William SAMMS showed up in the Jamaican records, and he was granted land grant. And later I'm going to read a little bit. I think we'll read a little bit of that before the system goes up. Here we go. Land grant to William SAMMS, October the 15th, 1665. Actually, I should do that better. The land was given to him 1665. 1665 and 1655 is 10 years after Jamaica was captured. 10 years. He was getting grant land. And here's the land grant. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Charles II, by the grace of God of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, King and Lord of Jamaica, defender of the faith, the soul to whom these present shall come greetings. Know ye that we for and in the consideration that William SAMMS, SAMS, has transported himself together with his servants unto our island of Jamaica, in pursuant of our proclamation before made for his better encouragement, for being one of our planters there, and for divers other goods, causes, and consideration, us hereunto, especially moving of our special grace, certain knowledge, and mere motion are given and granted by these present, for unto our heirs and successors to give and grant unto the said William SAMMS, his heirs, and assigned all that parcel of land, meadow or pasture, woodland, and whatsoever kind of land that seems to containing, by estimation, 250 acres, lying in the parish of St. John's. Now, let's stop there for a second. Jamaica had not 14 parishes back then, but I think 22 parishes. And St. John was just outside Old Harbour. St. John's was just outside Old Harbour. So if you go to Old Harbour these days and turn up in north, that's the parish of St. John's. So that's the land grant. Now, William most likely had slaves and had kids, and it shows that he went and he had John and a couple others and so forth. we're going to read a little of the will of William. And this will was written July the 21st, 1679. You write your will, and when you die, it get probated or published just after you're dead. So it says, in the name of God, amen, witness that I, William SAMMS of the parish of St. John's, Gent, being sick and weak in body, but of sound and perfect memory, praise be to Almighty God for it, do make and appoint this my last will and testament in manner and form, and follow it. I leave and bequeath my soul to the hands of God, hoping that he may merit of my blessed Savior to receive pardon and forgiveness of all my sins likewise. So here he's asking for forgiveness. I leave my dear and beloved wife Elizabeth SAMMS, my whole and sole executress of this estate, till my oldest son John SAMMS. So you see, oldest John, so he's mentioning his son, he's the oldest son, until he reach the age of 21, and further to my wife Elizabeth, thus not shall marry after my decease. Her said husband shall find and give security into my trustee, and well beloved friends, like Honorable Colonel John Cope, Lieutenant, and all those people. And he shall enjoy of my estate and their stock, negroes, cattle, utensils, and all things else that comes to his hands. So, don't want to read all of this, but the wills do exist in Jamaica. And that's it. So now, Shirley Morrison, Shirley SAMMS, when you have a name, you are sitting on a root. There's a root underneath you of a whole history of folks. A whole history of folks. Some of them are pioneers, some of them are military folks, most of them were farmers back those days. And then when you come into the 1800s, then some of them start to pioneer back out of Jamaica. They went to Costa Rica, they went to Panama, they went to England, and so forth. So you'll find that who you are and who you are creating up here in your kids, you have a whole host of people that make up your roots. Anything interesting? What's the most interesting thing that you find?
Well, it's really annoying to find out how my grandfather died. And that was Conrad. That I don't know, I couldn't figure that out. The hands and the legs were severed.
Yes,
And that's annoying.
and Conrad, it's
That's Conrad.
Bring it closer. So let's see. We're starting with the tree up the trunk, and we're gonna run down. Those are your kids and your siblings there, and your paternal side is Owen SAMMS, Conrad, Oscar, which is your great-grandfather, Henry is your great-great-grandfather, and then we don't know, somebody is missing, and then we pick up the record again. All right, so we are trying to wrap up now. So you're going from there to William, and then on your maternal side, it's Evelyn, Ethlyn, Harold, Hannah, Anna, Charles, Malcolm, and Alexander. That's where we got back into to southern Scotland. So did you know that you had white ancestors on your tree?
From knowing about slavery, I assume that there could be some mix because the slave owners used to sleep with the slaves, so there are a whole lot of mixing.
But how do you know, what is there any indication that you had, when you were growing up, did you see anybody with clear skin to indicate that you had some white? Who did you see it in first?
In clear skin with other people around?
No, in your family.
In my family. Actually, my mom.
Your mom seems
a little lighter than
the normal person.
Yeah.
And you don't look fully African in your sense. So you seem like, so you're taking both the European and Middle Eastern traits, and this is what you come up with.
Even my grandfather, Harold, his complexion,
clear. Yeah, it was fairly clear.
Yeah.
Aunt Lur. So she has seen a number of clear complexion people in the family. You know that they're not totally African, so that's what it is. All right. So anything else, quick?
Thank you.
You want to do the DNA question?
Oh, I did ask about the DNA because there are a lot of stories, and people are sure of their mother, but they're not sure about their father. So I did question my husband about that this morning.
Well, she hasn't done her DNA, but our daughter here, which is Karine up here, has done her DNA. And another person who is maybe the grandkid of Oscar did their DNA, which her name is, what's her name again? Let's hide it.
Who is that? The young lady that...
Yeah.
Shirley?
Maya SAMMS. Maya SAMMS did her DNA. And when she did her DNA, she was able to pick up Karine, who she hasn't met, in her DNA chart. And even her son is also picking up. We're picking up DNA in his to match Shirley. And then the fact that the stories, we met persons who knew of Oscar, and he was given the same story as Shirley's father, who told me about his grandfather who had a lot of kids. And so they were somewhat proud of it. So that's your foundation /roots. Your foundation /roots for Shirley Morrison. So /roots, yeah. So if you like this type of thing, my technology, next time I'll write these names much larger. Maybe just do 2 generational lines on the chart, and then I can write it bigger and make it. So if you like these type of things, and if you're from Jamaica, I might be able to help you. But in the meantime, don't be afraid. The records are out there for Jamaica. in Spanish Town archives, in the Institute of Jamaica, and the papers and all that. And so, but any one of us, we're sitting on a root that is supporting us and made us who we are. And you don't know, you probably don't know who is under there until you dig. This is Shirley the Explorer. Take care. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Especially with these genealogy things, because it will spread the word. All right.
And I know you really like your genealogy.
Yes.
So this is where you,
So
this is your roots right here, finding people connection.
Okay. All right. Well, if you like that, I certainly thank Shirley Morrison for the. Yes, this is the first. That's the first official document production for the genealogy part of Shirley the Explorer. And I thank Shirley Morrison for being the guinea pig on this first thing. She did a wonderful job. And I think she discovered something about her roots that she didn't know. Thanks for watching again. Thanks for sharing. And subscribe, folks. See you on another video.
Every single day, kidneys work.